would she lie if she knew it could kill her?
I don't ask why patients lie, I just assume they all do.
Today we're gonna be talking about, as the title says, about the first season of Doctor House. I've just finished a whole rewatch of the first season. I've had this episode on my backlog for I think 3 weeks already, maybe a month, and finally I have enough time to actually go through it because it's one of the most interesting, or rather the best medical um, series that I've ever watched. When comparing it to others like Grey's Anatomy or the Good Doctor, yeah. The Good Doctor, Grey's Anatomy, and others of its kind. My wife watches a lot of those, and I'm watching along. So Doctor House is actually the only one that I've had any interest on rewatching. And basically, I've watched it the first time around 5 years ago. Now just rewatched it, and I hold an entirely different opinion of the characters, the entire action, the plot points, basically everything. So we'll be talking a little bit about the story. We'll be talking a little bit about each character in part, or at least main character in part. Um, yeah, I think that would be the get go. I am talking off the back of my head. I haven't written anything down. I should start scripting these kind of videos more, I feel like, but whenever I go to scripting, it just feels unnatural to me. So, let's get this undergone. Right. So, basically, the story of the first season and of the series as a whole follows the titular character named Gregory House, a sort of disgraced, brilliant doctor that has suffered a personal tragedy, off the back of which he now feels immense pain in his right leg. I think it was right leg. It was the right leg, right? In his right leg as a result of him having a muscle ripped off from there. I won't get into details. Basically, this is the this is the main plot point. Basically, let me just open this up because it's super hot in here. Right, this is the main plot. Basically, this is the main character that you have. He is characterized as a depressed, misanthropic, and brutally honest disgraced doctor because he holds no regard for authority, he holds no regard or little regard for the law, and for basically everything, every rule that he has to follow. He only takes a couple of cases during the show and during an year. He isn't your regular doctor that just goes in, gets a lot of patients, and tries to find out what's wrong with them. He's a diagnostician by trade, which means people with strange symptoms come to him. He picks their cases up if he deems them interesting enough, and then he tries to find out what disease, what matter of disease they are afflicted with. Most of the episodes actually are comprised of interesting diseases and super rare diseases that you wouldn't usually find uh, just out there in the open or in normal hospitals. But of course, this is a series, this is a drama. It has to have something interesting, uh, mainly because it is a medical drama. So it has to, medically speaking, it has to pique your interest a little bit with strange and rare diseases that you normally wouldn't find or even hear about in the open and in real life. Right, this would be the main outlay of the story. I'll add to it as I go because I kind of forget things, old age and all that. But basically, he has a team assembled of three people: Dr. Cameron, Dr. Chase, and Dr. Foreman, and they kind of work together. So they're not residents; they're actually specialists in their field. So he has this superstar team working with him, not for him. That's a super important thing to address. Mainly, he is regarded by all the other characters as misanthropic. He basically meaning that he dislikes, hates, or mistrusts people. I read that out of the dictionary. In all honesty, he thinks people are lying, so he distrusts people. His mantra is everybody lies. Every episode usually revolves along that line. Everybody lies. There's nothing else. That's about it. Everybody lies. Now, to be honest, I do not think he is a true misanthropist. I don't think he hates people. And even though people state that, I think the show has made it obvious that Dr. House does not hate people. He actually cares deeply about his fellow colleagues, especially Wilson, his best friend, who is an oncologist, and he works closely with House, and his disciples of sorts that are more his colleagues rather than his subordinates, or he treats them more as colleagues. He makes them do stuff and he orders them around, but not even deep down, he actually respects each one of them, even though some are really undeserving of respect. But we'll come to we'll come to that later. I try to keep this shorter than usual, but it's gonna be hard because I'm super passionate about the series and there's a lot of things going on for one season. So basically, the whole story is you follow these strange and peculiar cases. There's some build up regarding his past and his injury and what actually brought him to this point of distrusting people and being this chronically depressed. There's also some conflict. A new director is being put in charge. I think it's a director. He makes a huge donation and he gains control over the hospital's board of directors. I think it's called. I don't really have any idea how it runs in the US. But basically, the hospital gets a new chief who is higher in the food chain than the medical doctor because he brings the money. So he makes this huge 100 million donation. He gets to say whatever he wants in the hospital, and he's very much a stickler for rules, mostly his rules. House being a character that confronts authority at every turn possible clearly comes into conflict very early on with this new boss. A quarter of the season just follows their struggle for power, and just as it seems that that new guy, whose name is Vogler, has finally put a leash on House, he just does the unthinkable. He basically destroys Vogler's new product in front of basically all of his stakeholders and potential customers, which is immense in showcasing House's um, that's the thing. I don't know the word. Uncom- uncompromisability. Uncompromisability. We'll go with that. I'm certain by the context you know what I mean. Basically, he won't sell himself out for any favors, and in this case, it was actually a favor that was very dear to him and huge to him.
I own the company. I'm certainly not to be trusted, right? Dr. Greg House, on the other hand, has a reputation for integrity, among other things. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Greg House.
Eastbrook Pharmaceuticals' extraordinary commitment to research excellence is exemplified by their new ACE inhibitor, a breakthrough medical approach that will protect millions from heart disease.
That's not a speech. I thought it was pithy. You got enough for a press release anyhow.
Foreman or Cameron?
few things I forgot to mention. Ed Vogler is a brilliant businessman, brilliant judge of people, and a man who has never lost a fight. You know how I know that the new ACE inhibitor is good? Because the old one was good. The new one is really the same, just more expensive. A lot more expensive. See, that's another example of Ed's brilliance. Whenever one of his drugs is about to lose its patent, he has his boys and girls alter it just a tiny bit, patent it all over again, making not just a pointless new pill, but millions and millions of dollars. Which is good for everybody, right? Except the patients, but who cares? They're just so damn sick. God obviously never liked them anyway. From all the healthy people in the room, let's have a big round of applause for Ed Vogler.
Another plot point is his subordinate actually falling in love for him. I mean, it's clear who, but I'm not gonna say any more spoilers. So this is very spoilery. Just a fair warning. I'll also post in the description and some text on the screen so you know that. Basically, one of his subordinates falls in love with him, and throughout the season, you just follow this plot point along the lines. The feelings aren't reciprocated, or at least they appear not to be reciprocated. So this huge crush dies on in the later stages of the season. Yeah, let's then switch to the characters that appear in the series, because there's quite an array of interesting characters. I'm talking about recurring characters and all that. So Dr. House, the protagonist, again, as I've stated, I don't think he's a misanthropist. He's depressed because of his injury. He's addicted to painkillers, namely Vicodin, to get basically through every minute of the day. He tries to get clean at some point just to prove his boss, Lisa Cuddy, a point, but kind of fails into doing that. So he actually succeeds in actually making a time limit without the Vicodin. Then he just resumes to using it because he actually enjoys taking the pills, which is basically relapse 101. Maybe that would have been an interesting episode name, Relapse 101. 101. I'm stupid and making this kind of thing. So try again. 101. Smartness level 900. Right. Let's go back to him. During the series actually, and during the season, he develops some relationships, well, friendly relationships with several staff members and mostly team members, but also patients. So he's known for distrusting patients, but as he takes on these cases and as he continues working on these cases, he unknowingly and unwittingly develops immense care for these patients. He's going through any lengths just to fix them. Of course, he claims that he's trying to solve a puzzle. Wilson, his best friend, says the same. But in truth, he loves humanity, I think. So, this is a personal opinion. He loves humanity. He holds the human life as sacred. And he will do everything in his power to preserve it, even if it means breaking all the rules he can in the process, because he breaks a lot of rules just to keep his patients alive and well. In one particular case, there is a patient that actually mimics, rather not mimics, but has symptoms very resembling on his own afflictions. In that case, he does a very morally questionable thing to save the patient and make her life as good as possible given this situation. So again, maybe he sees himself in that person, but I don't think so. I think he's going to go to any lengths to just help the patient for as much as he can. Not all the patients, only the patients that his mind processes as important or dear to him in a way. Enough about him. Just watch the season and form your own opinion. This is just a very short opinion on the character because I don't want to make it too long. I dislike long reviews like that. Alongside him, he has a boss, Dr. Lisa Cuddy, who actually gave him a chance after his predicament, and given his status as both a cripple and a depressed, brutally honest, all the yada yada, a very unpleasant person to be around. She saw past that and into his brilliant mind, and actually gives him a leeway to do things his way in this hospital and in this department, diagnostics department that he rules. So she's very understanding of his capabilities and of his ability to cure this strange, weird, to find and cure these weird, strange diseases that, as stated by many people, nobody else could. She's willing to give him a chance, and even though she loses a lot of money for the hospital as a result of that, it really shows her loyalty towards him and just his general value to her personally, but also as an asset to the hospital. Uh, Besides her, and she's the one who tries to get. uh, She's one of the people who tries to get him to get off Vicodin, without actually succeeding in that. Next one is his best friend, Dr. Wilson, who seems like a super sweet, super charming doctor. He's that caring doctor that you have. He's an oncologist, so he has to be sensitive, yeah, about everything and know how to talk to patients and doctors alike. He's the only one who puts up with House, and they are best friends for a reason. He's basically the only one person in the whole hospital who actually likes and can tolerate his presence. Their friendship is extremely tight. He's one of the few people House has visibly shown concern about when his position was under threat from the new uh, hospital chief, Vogler. But behind that sweet, calm, cute Dr. Face hides a shrewd individual willing to manipulate others and to actually manipulate House into quitting his Vicodin addiction. Again, for a good cause. And from what has been hinted at throughout the season, he has a predicament for finding himself in uncomfortable situations with female young doctors, which means he's prone to cheating, basically. Which again adds a little bit of complexity to his character. He's in the series regarded as the Prince Charming of the doctor's department, but he's a very nice addition here. The actor is unbelievably good. He played in Dead Poet Society, actually, the one of the main roles, and he is just insanely good. You could see so him and Hugh Laurie in the main role are just out of this world, uh, acting wise. Besides them, there's really no standout actors, but those two are just one level beyond everybody else, or above everybody else, rather. Uh, Next up, you have House's team. Dr. Cameron, who is this empath in their group, a person who empathizes with their patients, with their needs, with their care, to a certain point when that doesn't actually contradict her own convictions. Then she can become cruel and terrible to them. She also has a very strange, I want to say addiction, but not really addiction, but affinity for getting into relationships with broken people of sorts. She was married to a dying man just because I mean, it's hinted that she thought of him. I mean, she loved him, but thought of him as her project of fixing him based on her personal issues. I won't delve too deep into her. I don't care about her that much. I think she's a good character for the show. It's not a character I resonate with. I find her very. Mm, the show would want us to feel that she's the most humane part of Dr. House's team and a very good counterpoint to him, to his misanthropy. But in my mind, she is much less caring and much more misanthropic than Dr. House is, and her kindness is only a facade, and that's about it.
Just trying to figure out what makes you tick. I am not warm and fuzzy, and you are basically a stuffed animal made by Grandma.
I don't think that's why you're asking. I think this is because of the speech.
God, don't try and pick me apart.
Then
Right. Moving along, we have Dr. Chase, the son of a celebrity doctor, basically, who is very well connected, who can pull strings. Supposedly, that's why House hired him, because his father wrote an email. He's actually a very good doctor. The first time when watching the series, I thought Chase was my favorite character from the first season. Now I think he's just a leech. He will do anything just to guarantee his spot, which means, spoiler alert, basically betraying his colleagues and going behind their backs and House's back to working as a double agent for Vogler, feeding him information about what the team is doing, just to guarantee his position at the hospital, which is a very slimy thing to do. House eventually somehow forgives him, but doesn't forget that. I would not be able to forgive him. I would fire his ass first time I could. But House forgives him, and he still doesn't respect House enough as a result of that, which is fucking insane. I mean, that guy is a leech, very brilliant doctor, super good doctor, brilliant, but personality-wise, he's a slime. He's basically a slime, and he really shows no redemption qualities when when um, larger than regular weighted person, a child, comes into the section. He is super dismissive of her as just being fat and not wanting to exercise or eat properly, though she was actually very sick. Again, it shows a lot about the character. He is a super shitty person, and I don't think he actually develops, if I remember correctly, that much, which is scary and super strange. The last member of his team is Dr. Foreman. Everybody makes comparisons between him and Dr. House, but Foreman is the only one in that team who is actually a counterpoint to House. House is prone to make irrational decisions, mostly because of his genius condition. He believes everything he says is right and everything he's doing is right because his mind tells him so. Foreman is the only logical head in the whole department. He's the only one with enough guts and enough of a spine to stand up to House whenever he needs to. But at the same time, he's loyal to House. He's not betraying him, he's not doing anything in House's disfavor. I think only one or two times he actually alerted Dr. Cady about some of House's more dangerous experiments, but that's about it. Other than that, he's been loyal, he's been super good and super reliable for House. That's the main thing. He is that reliable doctor that House can confide in, and he's actually the only one that House has um, mature interactions with, and actually kind of the only one I think that House fully respects out of the three members of his team, because he's the only one that stands up to him, that tells him he's wrong, that tells him, or rather, that has similar or better ideas, similarly placed otherwise.
The question. It's not going to change how I think about myself. Might affect my opinion of you, but that shouldn't affect your opinion of yourself. But I'm getting confused. If you think he's a better doctor than I am, then you should take the job. Otherwise, you should get him to buy you 2 or 3 more nostalgic lunches and then politely decline.
It's that simple. I should just ignore the mockery and abuse.
Oh, how do I abuse you?
How do you not? If I make a mistake,
I hold you accountable. So what?
Dr. Hamilton forgives. He's capable of moving on.
That is not what he does.
I screwed up his case. He told
He
me.
never said you were forgiven. I was there. He said it wasn't your fault.
So?
So it was. You took a chance. You did something great. You were wrong. But it was still great. You should feel great that it was great. You should feel like crap that it was wrong. That's the difference between him and me. He thinks you do your job, and what will be, will be. I think that what I do and what you do matters. He sleeps better at night. He shouldn't.
Basically, he became a new favorite character, except House and Wilson. I actually think he is a very good counterpoint to House. He is basically the anti-House. Mostly, and one important trait: House doesn't value money. He doesn't value status. He doesn't value anything that is super important to many normal people like us. Instead, Foreman covets that. He wants status. He wants fame. He wants money. He wants nice things. He wants luxury. House detests that. Everybody puts a comparison between them, saying that they're the same, while in truth, he is the only one in the team that is super, the opposite of House in so many characteristics. I think that would be all from this video. Actually, it's been over 20 minutes. I don't feel like I said much, but I'll just insert a scale here. Scaling the season, I think it's a solid 8 out of 10. It's a solid 8 out of 10. It's one. I think it's the best season, or rather series of medicine drama that I've ever seen. Characters shine. They get enough room to shine because the focus is just so small, and each actor plays their part super well. The exception being Hugh Laurie and the actor for Wilson, which again is fucking amazing. But yeah, it's a solid 8 out of 10. It's a very solid season, very good season, very good starting point for the story. It offers some exposition. It raises some interesting questions. Overall, it is an amazing season. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I couldn't wait just to see more. And hopefully you'll want to give it a shot. It's been very good. It's been very good, and I cannot recommend the series enough for you guys. Even a rewatch. So a rewatch is totally worth it. It basically changed my opinion on the whole character scope and story-wise. Basically, as I had a completely different opinion 5 years ago. Now everything shifted, maybe because of my personal experiences, my growth as a person, and all that. But it is one of those series that you have to rewatch to understand more of, or to gain a new perspective on. I think that would be it. So thank you for joining, recurring viewers. Thank you for joining again. Hopefully you'll be liking, subscribing, and post a comment. Did you watch the series? Yes or no? And if you did, who is your favorite character and why? I'd love a debate in the comment section. So you do that. And see you next time, guys. Love you.
Now, one of this guy's doctors said it. They gave him bed rest and antibiotics, just like you guys would have.
Did he get better?
No,
How long?
3 days. It is in the nature of medicine that you are going to screw up. You are going to kill someone. If you can't handle that reality, pick another profession. Or finish medical school and teach.
3 days before they thought it might have been muscle death.
No, 3 days before the patient suggested it might have been muscle death.